Most people assume early retirement belongs to a specific type of person, someone who coded at a startup, someone who inherited something, someone whose salary looks nothing like yours. That assumption is worth examining because the data on who actually reaches early retirement, who builds the portfolio, exits the workforce, and sustains it, doesn't always match the income profile people expect. This video breaks down the math, not the motivational version, the structural version. If you're currently saving somewhere between 15 and 30% of your income, contributing to tax-advantaged accounts, watching your net worth climb, but still quietly unsure whether any of it leads somewhere real, that's the exact tension this is designed to address. Not, can you dream big enough? Whether the math closes. The lever most people underestimate. Here's the first structural point, and it runs counter to most of what's talked about in personal finance spaces. Income level is not the primary variable in early retirement timelines. Savings rate is. A household earning $120,000 and saving 12% reaches a different outcome than a household earning $75,000 and saving 28%, even though the first household earns significantly more. That's not a motivational statement. It's a math outcome. The compression effect of a high savings rate is well documented across retirement modeling literature. At a 10% savings rate, reaching financial independence takes roughly 40 or more years. At 30%, that timeline shortens to somewhere in the mid-20s range. At 50%, closer to 15 to 17 years. The income floor matters. You need enough to cover expenses and still save. But beyond that threshold, income level stops being the dominant driver. Structure takes over. How $1 million actually gets built on a normal income. Let's use a concrete example. Not hypothetical perfection. A functional middle income model. Household income, $72,000. Annual savings, $21,600, roughly 30%. Starting portfolio value, $40,000. Expected average annual return, variable. But we'll use a conservative 6 to 7% real return range, adjusted for inflation, for modeling purposes only. At those inputs, that portfolio crosses $1 million somewhere between year 22 and year 26, depending on contribution consistency and sequence variation. For someone who starts at 28, that's a retirement window in their early to mid-50s. For someone starting at 32 with existing savings, the math can compress further. That's not exceptional. That's disciplined structure applied consistently over time. The variable that breaks this most often isn't income. It's lifestyle inflation that absorbs savings rate gains as income rises. Every time income increases and spending matches it, the retirement timeline extends. Not slightly, often by years. What $1 million actually supports? This is where the modeling gets more important, and where many early retirement projections quietly fail. $1 million is a milestone. It is not automatically a safe withdrawal number in all configurations. What it can support depends on 4 variables: withdrawal rate, expense level, healthcare structure, and geographic context. On withdrawal rate, the historically supported range that appears most frequently in long-term portfolio research falls between 3.5 and 4.5% annually, depending on portfolio composition and retirement duration. A 4% withdrawal rate on a $1 million portfolio produces $40,000 per year in spending. For some households, that closes the expense gap. For others, it doesn't. This is where lifestyle calibration becomes structurally important. Not as a sacrifice framing, as a design question. If your current annual expenses are $38,000, $1 million works. If your current expenses are $58,000, including healthcare, housing, and discretionary, $1 million doesn't close the gap cleanly at a 4% rate. It closes at a 5.8% rate, which introduces sequence of returns risk at a level most researchers consider elevated. And the number isn't the destination. The expense structure underneath it is the real-world layer. Housing is the largest variable in most early retirement models, and it's rarely addressed with specificity. A $1 million portfolio supporting $40,000 annually looks very different in a low cost of living region than in a high-cost metro. In some geographic configurations, smaller cities, certain international locations, rural areas with low property tax, $40,000 operates with significant margin. In others, it covers baseline expenses with nothing left for variance. Healthcare compounds this. For early retirees who exit employment before Medicare eligibility at 65, healthcare is a structurally exposed cost. Marketplace plan premiums, out-of-pocket maximums, and potential subsidy thresholds based on income all interact with withdrawal strategy in ways that require modeling before retirement, not after. A household withdrawing $40,000 annually may or may not qualify for subsidy support, depending on how income is structured across account types. That distinction alone can mean a $6,000 to $14,000 annual variance in healthcare cost. This is where most early retirement plans fail quietly, not from bad intentions, from incomplete modeling of the real cost layer beneath the portfolio milestone, the part that determines if $1 million actually works. Here is the open loop this video held until now. $1 million at retirement is not a static event. The year you retire, and specifically what the market does in the first 3 to 5 years after you stop contributing, matters more to long-term portfolio survival than almost any other single variable. This is called sequence of returns risk. Two identical portfolios, same $1 million starting value, same 4% withdrawal, same average return over 30 years. One retires into a market downturn in year one. One retires into a flat or positive sequence. The outcomes after 30 years are not close. The portfolio that experienced early losses, even while averaging the same long-term return, can be depleted before year 20. The one with an early neutral or positive sequence can sustain well beyond year 30. The first 5 years of early retirement carry structural weight that the accumulation phase simply doesn't. This doesn't mean timing the market. It means building a withdrawal structure that accounts for this variable. Through cash buffers, bond allocation, or flexible spending capacity, before retirement begins. Why this structure matters more than the salary. Pull back to the larger frame. $1 million is achievable on a normal income. The math supports it across a wide range of realistic savings rates and timelines. It's not theoretical. For households with median to upper median incomes who maintain a savings rate above 25% and manage lifestyle inflation, the compounding timeline leads there with consistency, not with perfection. But $1 million being reachable and $1 million being sufficient are two different questions. Sufficiency depends on expense structure, on healthcare planning, on geographic configuration, on withdrawal sequencing, or on whether the first 5 years absorb a drawdown or don't. Early retirement, framed accurately, isn't income replacement. It's expense control paired with a withdrawal structure designed to outlast the timeline. That's the distinction most financial content skips. Not because it's hidden, because it's less satisfying than a single number. Freedom is built on structure. What changes when you see it this way? When $1 million stops being a fantasy number and becomes a structural milestone with specific inputs, savings rate, timeline, expense calibration, withdrawal design, the planning process changes. It becomes something you can model. Adjust. Stress test. The question shifts from, Is this possible for someone like me? To what does my version of this actually require? Not every version of early retirement on a normal income looks the same, and some reach it at 52, some at 48. Some extend past $1 million before exiting because their expense structure requires it. Some retire on less because their costs have been engineered lower over time. What they share isn't the income level. It's the structural clarity underneath the number. The math on early retirement with a normal income is more accessible than most people assume, and more nuanced than most content presents. The number is reachable. Whether it's sufficient depends on the structure you build around it. That structure is worth understanding before you hit the milestone, not after.